Hello, something I thought I wanted to recover, and that's ghost stories, paranormal. I mean, I found some old pictures, a bunch of them actually, of the place I lived in before I moved here 6 years ago, and a lot of that was with Jen. Some of it I was there alone. I mean, I lived in that place almost 10 years. Pretty close to 10 years. How long did I live there? I lived there 8 or 9 years. In that trailer in Sempronius. And started from day one. The hauntings there were, if not a daily event, a weekly event. And the thing is, it was inside the trailer. Things would happen. And outside the trailer and in the woods, that whole little area there. And I'm going to cover some of that. I'm going to flash some pictures up here and there of the trailer. It's not much to look at. It wasn't much to look at on the inside either. It was a 1970s single-wide trailer. And the woods around it really weren't anything spectacular, though just, the woods around it went with it. 11 acres went with the place. I rented it. And the landlord was really nice. He was a really good friend of mine. I really liked the guy quite a bit. Him and his wife. And I would find him dead on that property. And if any of his family sees this and they're offended, which I find probably very unlikely they ever would, let me know. I apologize. I will take this down, but I'm not going to mention his name. And I'll tell you right now, that trailer is no longer there. You'll see when I get to the end of this story. Though the woods are there. Yeah, the place used to be a cow field maybe 40 years ago. Pasture for dairy cattle. And I know that because I talked to some people that lived in that area forever. And you could tell the trees were fairly young. Really, the trees there, other than the apple trees here and there, weren't much. But behind the place, immediately behind my place, in the woods, was a spectacular view of nature. And the pictures don't even do it justice. I fell in love. I couldn't believe it. Because I'm a guy, as you know, if you follow my channel, I like the outdoors. I like to sit out by a fire, play guitar, listen to music, enjoy company, cook out, and, over a fire all day and night, or all night. Light off fireworks occasionally if I'm out in the countryside. Drink beer, yes. Never. I don't think I ever got drunk per se. Anything like that. It's just chilling out like people do when they live out in the woods, When you haven't got much money, what's your entertainment? Really, that's another story, because that's another story I'm not even going to get into. I should have been doing quite well financially, but I had a few injustices in my life that set me back. Has nothing to do with the hauntings in this woods. Now, I want to tell you that, like I said earlier, the woods around that place were haunted. And it wasn't just me that knew this. Jen knew this for certain. So did two other friends of mine. One was a girlfriend, one was just a girlfriend before Jen. Really, they both had experiences of hauntings in those woods and in the trailer. They didn't live with me there. They just visited. You think, what sort of guy is this guy, Tim? No, they're just whatever. I'll get to their experiences. So it wasn't just me that experienced this. It was the only ones that lived with me there was Jen. Was the only person that ever lived with me there, and she lived there for 4 years. And The other two were they just visited before I knew her. But the trailer itself was haunted. Down the street, on the same side of the road, if I walked to it from my trailer, it probably would take me no more than 10 minutes to walk, 5 minutes. I experienced a really, I don't know if you want to call it a strong haunting. I had the ghost woman came out of the tree, came right up to my face. Pretty wild. And I'm not going to tell that in this one. And also the spirit hawk, the white albino hawk that was there. I had heard that the woods where I lived used to be an Indian burial, that the Indians buried their dead there. I don't know if that's true. A friend of mine told me that his grandfather, and my friend was about my age, so his grandfather lived there his whole life, going back some years, and he said the Indians buried their dead there. And he told me that before I ever even told him any stories about hauntings. So the woods around my trailer. Where does it start, where the woods are haunted? The first hauntings I experienced there were inside the trailer. It started when my friend Mary was visiting. I'd be around 2012, somewhere around there. 2013, 2012. And it was just her and I. It was midday, summertime. And I had a cat then. And she was out. I didn't smoke. What was she doing? She just went out. She went out on my front porch. There's only one porch. You see in the pictures. And I'm sitting in the indoors at the table in the living room, and there's a coffee table in front of me, and just kind of relaxing, not really doing anything, not thinking anything. And she's out on the porch, and I said to her, I said, "Hey, do you see my cat out there?" And she says, "No." She said, "But there's a ghost of a woman in your yard." And you'd think I would have jumped up, but I didn't. I said, "Get out of here." Honestly, I didn't want to hear about it, because I'd already had a lot of hauntings inside the trailer. And she got hysterical. She said, "There's a freaking ghost of a woman in your yard." And I said, "Get out of here. I don't want to hear that." And she said it again. "There's a ghost of a woman in your yard." And she came in. And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "There's a ghost." She told me, and I went out, and there was nobody there, because by the time I went out to check, she told me that the woman came out of the woods behind my trailer in a white dress. And she said she walked or glided, I don't remember which, but real fast right across my yard. And she said she went across the road and into the woods across the street. And that's what she said, and she was kind of hysterical. In fact, right after that, she got in her car and left. She was pretty upset. So I'm sitting there by myself thinking, what the heck? I didn't know what to think of it. As I'm sitting there, the table in front of me, I'm not touching it with my feet or hands. There was a bottle, actually a plastic cap, like off a Pepsi bottle, just went ping, and flew all the way across the room, all by itself. Like somebody just whipped it, and it right in front of me, picked up and flew all the way across the room. So I said some prayers, of course, and I thought she probably wasn't making that story up about the ghost of the woman in the white dress. That's all she told me. It was a woman in a white dress. And she was adamant about that. And there was no reason I would think she would have made that up. She didn't. Because that was the first of the woods hauntings. The first hauntings in the trailer happened before that. And it was about this time, actually since I moved in there, 2010, I believe. I lived there alone. And my mother told me, God bless her, she was still alive then. She said, "Son, what are you doing moving to that trailer out in the woods all by yourself?" She said, "With your history and your background of hauntings." She said, "Do you really think that's a smart move?" My mom even thought that maybe I shouldn't have moved out there by myself. And I said, "Ma, it was so cheap. The rent was so cheap. And I love the land. And these hauntings have been part of my life, my whole life, from childhood to present. Not much going on right now that I would talk about. I don't want to talk about it right now, present. I still have things happening, but I don't want to talk about it here and now. And I've learned you can't run from these things. I'll be running my whole life. Because wherever I go, even overseas, I seem to empower or attract things. I don't know which. So I moved in there anyway, and it was really from the start, I kept seeing this large black mass, like a sooty black cloud. And I'd just be, I had a nice, actually, for that single wide, it had a nice kitchen. I mean, like my friend said, Leon, that he grew up in trailers in the 70s and 80s. He told me he was like a trailer park trailer expert. And he said, this used to be a deluxe trailer back in the day. I think he was right. For a single wide, the kitchen in that trailer was better than the one in this house. It was really nice. It was actually not, considered it was an old derelict trailer. It really was kind of well laid out in the kitchen anyway. So I used to be standing there all the time looking out the windows. Nothing else to do. I'm there by myself. And I don't day drink. I don't. And I don't do drugs at all. No drugs, nothing. Straight-laced Christian guy. Like to cook out on nights, some nights, with friends, have a few beers, listen to some music, cook some chicken or steaks or whatever our budget could afford, and just talk and laughter, and that's it. Nobody's doing any drugs. Nobody's drinking whiskey or getting stupid. Really, honestly. Just trying to have a good time. But I used to see a black sooty mass, which would be about as big as a car. But it wasn't like, there was no shape to it. It was nebulous. Like a cloud of black smoke. I would see it because you could see from the windows all the way around. I could be standing in my kitchen and I had bay windows here. And I had big windows off to this side. And then right behind me in the living room, there's big windows there. And windows all over the place in that trailer, actually. I could see this big black sooty mass. It would circle my trailer, like right outside the wall. Like not far away, but it would literally, it was like maybe this close to the trailer outside, and it would go around. It would cut in front of the window here, and I would see it in front of the bay window, and it would circle my trailer. I couldn't tell you what it is. And I'll tell you what. It wasn't long after Mary was there, Amy was there. Amy had a lot of experiences there. She didn't live with me. Actually, she did live with me for a little while there. Like, not too long. A couple weeks. She was really sick. She was battling cancer at the time. Very ill. And I really felt like I needed to look after her and help her out, honestly. A good friend of mine. Something of my girlfriend, too, for a little while there. But she's still a good friend of mine, but we don't talk. She's remarried and stuff. Well, one time, and she was a bigger chatterbox than me. She could talk. When I was with her, she'd talk so much, I would actually shut up and listen like, oof. She'd talk my head off. Which was cool. She had a great sense of humor, a good mind, clever woman. Well, we were there at lunch. I just remember it was broad daylight, summertime, and we're standing in the kitchen, and I was sitting at the table looking out the window, and she was talking my head off, looking at me. She was standing up, and she was fixing lunch or something. And it was noon, and I'm looking out the window, and my car's parked out in the driveway, pulled up a little bit in the lawn. And I see that black mass again. Really, like I said, about as big as a car, not quite. Like a sooty black cloud crossed in front of the window between me and the car. So I know there wasn't any clouds. It wasn't a cloud shadow. It was a clear day, seriously. And it blocked out my car. When it crossed between, if I'm looking at my car out the window, it came between myself and the car and, blocked out the view of the car while it crossed in front of it. and just continued around the front. And Amy's talking to me, and then she goes, right in the middle of a sentence, she just went, and I said, what? I said, you saw it too, huh? She says, yeah, what was that? I said, tell me what you saw. She said, something black crossed in front of your window. And I told her, I see that here quite often. It circles my trailer. I don't know what it is. And honestly, I didn't get freaked out about it because it was outside. I figured God wasn't allowing it to come into my trailer, though it did once. And I told a story about that when I talked about demonic attack. I considered that a demonic attack. That happened inside the trailer when I was there alone. But it couldn't come into my body. It tried to possess me. Couldn't do it. It's another story. These are things in the woods and outside of the trailer. A lot of freaky things happened. When Amy was staying there, going through chemo, very sick, she told me things that I did not witness. She told me she saw a ball of light in the woods, and she heard a man screaming, like an angry screaming man, and a ball of light in the woods right behind my trailer. And she said she saw that twice, and I didn't see it. But this is one of her stories. Like Jen had her stories too. She saw things there that I didn't. So it wasn't just me. So Amy saw a ball of light there. I'm going to forget. So many things happen. Like I said, there's almost weekly, sometimes daily occurrences. And I'm certain I'm forgetting a lot of things. But I'm going to focus on the woods because I really like the woods there. I like the whole idea of having my own place where I could have a picnic table and build a nice place to sit out. I call it my beer garden. Build a barbecue pit to cook out over and just kick back and turn the music up if I want to because I'm way out in the middle of nowhere and that's the way I like it. But I'll tell you what. Here's a picture of when I first moved in there. Here it is. Now you see my fire, actually it's a retort that I built, but the picnic table's there and it's really muddy there. You know, it must have been raining or something, but that's where I first put my picnic table and was going to make that my little hangout place where I'd sit back there. And that barrel with the smokestack pipe coming out of it, that's actually, there was a smaller barrel inside of that. That's actually a retort that I made, where I made my own lumped coal. I would go cut down apple, cherry, and oak, hickory, and I would cut it up into blocks and make lumped charcoal out of it. And that was a charcoal retort, and it worked really well for that. So I always had my own custom lumped charcoal to cook with. So I was really getting big into like cooking out over a fire and stuff. But I did not stay back there for long. I never felt comfortable back there. And that was right directly behind that trailer. I mean, maybe 20 feet behind the trailer, right in the woods. And it's right there where I found my landlord. Now I'll get to that when I get to that. But I never felt comfortable in there, honestly. I never felt threatened. I always felt unwanted. Like, you're not supposed to be back here. We don't want you back here. That's what I felt. And it just had a heavy creepiness about it. And I look at the land and I'm thinking, it's nothing. The woods are nothing. Right there, they're nothing. Over the hill, it was beautiful forest there and fields. But right there, it really wasn't much there but some poplar trees and pricker bushes. Nothing spectacular. But you know, not far from there, where I would find this out, and I'm really good at finding old foundations because I've been collecting old bottles most of my life, and I'm pretty good at walking around finding old house foundations and trying to find where where they threw their garbage a long time ago or buried it. But I didn't find this, but it took me a couple of years, and I noticed there used to be a farmhouse on that property, not far away from where I was sitting because they cleaned it up so well you could scarcely tell there was ever anything there. And picture off if I haven't turned it off already. I did a little research, and there used to be a house there, a farmhouse, even though who had it, the Ripley farm, and it burned down in the 1950s. The whole place burned down in the 50s. And I have reason to believe that there was loss of life. I did a lot of research. So there was a farmhouse there that burned down in the 50s in those woods. And my friend told me that his grandfather told him the Indians buried their dead around there. I don't know exactly where, and I saw what appeared to be an Indian woman coming out of a tree down right not far from there. And a white albino hawk not far from there. But that wasn't on my property in my woods, but it was just down the street, just a little ways, the same side of the road. What else happened? A lot of things happened there. One year I was outside. I had a nice garden. Well, that wasn't that great of a garden because there's so much rocks. I had peppers and squash and tomatoes galore, a few other things. And I heard a man right in the woods, not far from me. I mean, he would have been right in the woods. And he was yelling at the top of his voice in a screaming rage. And I know exactly what he said. I could tell you what he said, but there's a lot of profanity involved in this. So I'm going to warn you, I'm not going to take the Lord's name in vain, but neither did this spirit. But he was a lot of profanity. Now, if you don't want to hear the profanity, plug your ears. But I can tell you exactly what he said because he did the same thing, seemed like the next year. But he would yell, "I won't do it, you motherfuckers." He says, "You can't make me do it. I won't do it, you fuckers. I won't do it. You can't make me do it." That's what he was saying. Dropping F-bombs. Screaming, rage. And it was like, whoa. Because it was right inside the woods. And there's no houses close to there. There's no traffic on the road either. Because I thought, this guy sounded deranged. Actually, I'm like, whoa. And this guy just kept going. "I won't do it, you motherfuckers." He would yell us. And I got an image of a guy, in my mind, an image of a man, like a red-haired guy, white guy with his shirt off. And like just in a rage, like where he's been scratching himself and he's got red marks all over his chest and he's just having a complete meltdown. And I actually went looking for him. And as soon as I went in, because, I had to live there. And you don't run from things like this, so you'll never sleep at night. So I looked for him. I went in the woods. That's when it stopped. As soon as I went looking for him, it stopped. I went out on the road. There was nobody on the road. I got in my car and drove up and down the road. There's nobody. There's nobody there. And I looked around the woods too and even yelled out for him, "Where are you?" Nothing. Now skip forward a year or two, and Jen's living with me, and we're both out together working on the garden. And in our yard, that was in our yard. We had a really big yard, more yard than I needed. But we had a garden, and we were both out there pulling weeds in the summer, and right inside the woods, same place. "I won't do it, you motherfuckers." Sorry to interject. Something I thought both times when this happened to me. I'm editing the video right now, and it occurred to me that I should put this in here. Both times this happened to me, I thought the same thing. Now, this guy said, "I won't do it, you motherfuckers. You can't make me do it. I won't do it." And then a lot of profanity. Do what? He said, I won't do it. You can't make me do it. And he was screaming the same thing. "I won't do it, you motherfuckers. You can't make me do it." And I wonder if I thought both times I wonder if something evil was trying to get him to harm me. Whatever it was, he said, I won't do it. You can't make me do it. I won't do it. And he sounded deranged, really deranged. But I got the feeling that he did not want to harm me. Both times this happened. I thought I should add that. I think I'll drive by there and maybe say some prayers again. Whatever. And I researched I couldn't find any history. But yeah, both times I thought he kept saying between all the F bombs and the MF bombs, I won't do it. You can't make me do it. I won't do it. Both times. And I thought that both times. All right, back to. I'm sorry if I offend anybody with this. I'm telling you what was said. I won't do it. You motherfuckers. You can't make me do it. And we're both like, I said, I told her about this. And she looked scared. Because this guy sounded deranged. And he wasn't far away. I said, go in the house, lock the door. I had a gun. I said, get the gun. I said, I'm going to go find out what's going on. And she went in the house and presumably locked the door. Got the gun. It was a rifle, not the shotgun. What was it? It doesn't matter. I'm not big into guns, but I always have one around. And I went looking for this guy, and it was the same thing. As soon as I went looking for him, it stopped. And I drove up and down the road, and I went in the woods. I looking for the guy. Nothing. And this was the same. I told her, just like I'm telling you, what happened, and she experienced it. You know, she experienced the same thing, so it wasn't just up here. Then one time I came home from work, and it was, again, summertime. That haunting's in the wintertime, too, believe me. As soon as I pulled in my driveway, and there was nobody home at this point. Jen was living with me, but she was working at her job, which went on, I guess, into the evening at that point. And she worked in a pharmacy in town. And as soon as I pulled in the car, turned my car off, and I'm sitting in the car, the windows down, and in the woods, I hear a man yelling to me for help. And I remember what he sounded like to this day. He sounded like an older man. Wasn't the same person, I'm pretty sure, that I just described, the deranged man. This sounded like an older man, and he had a kind of a little bit of an accent. Honestly, he sounded like he might have been somebody from a long time ago. He kept calling me sir. And he's like, sir, get help. He says, please, sir, get help. This is what he was saying. Get help, please get help, sir. Sir, get help, sir. Sir, please get help. And I'm like, I got out of my car, and I'm still hearing the guys in the woods. Get help, sir, please get help. Help. And I went looking for him because this man sounded like he needed help. I was perplexed. To tell you the truth, I think I suspected that it might have been something paranormal. But he needed help. And I said, where are you? And he's like, sir, get help. Sir, please, sir, get help. Right inside the woods. And I run over there. I says, where are you? Get help, sir. I says, I can't help you if I can't see you. Where are you? And then it stopped. And I went in the woods thinking maybe a hunter or somebody had been hurt in my woods. It wasn't hunting season. I thought some man was in my woods hurt. Nobody in there. Oh, here we go. I drove up and down the road to make sure, because I wanted to make sure there's nobody. Oh, what else happened in those woods? Well, here's a picture. All right. I moved my little picnic table out of, oh, that's right. Here's a picture of, in those woods, where the edge of the woods opened up into a field. Beautiful, 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 peaceful place. This is right behind my house, in my woods. But it opened up into a rolling, here's a picture. All right, this place right there, I wanted to put a picnic table right on the edge with this beautiful view. There's no houses, nobody around. What a beautiful place to sit out at nights and look at the stars, because it got really dark at night. Here's a picture of nighttime there, how dark it gets for whatever. Yeah, it got really dark there, properly dark, or properly starry. But if it was overcast, yeah. Or the, you know, so back here's pictures of that field again. That I love that field so much. And I started to take my lawnmower. I had a riding mower, and I started riding, trying to, like, I was cutting a pathway through the weeds, really, you know, up to this corner where I was going to build a place right where these pictures are taken, you know, overlooking this beautiful field and rolling hills. And there was a little pond down there you can't see, and a creek. It was nice. Beautiful place. If the Indians buried their dead there, I can see why. It was a really beautiful place to walk the land there. But I mowed this lawn back there, and every time I drove back there on my mower, I felt so creeped out. I wasn't afraid, I just felt like I wasn't supposed to be back there. That they just didn't want me back there. Spirits, I don't know who else, I just didn't feel welcome in those woods. I got this feeling like, you stay in the trailer, stay out of these woods. The woods is theirs. Like there was a boundary, don't come back here. And I'll tell you what, I kind of ignored that, of course, because I'm paying the rent there. I'm the one who likes to cook his hot dogs out over the fire and look at the stars at night. Well, one day, and here's a picture where you can actually see one of what I'm talking about. I went back there, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees that had fallen down across the path that I was cutting through the weeds up to the little place I was going to build to put my fire pit. And 5 trees fell down, and they weren't dead trees either, and 2 of them were fairly large. There was no windstorm either. These trees fell down, picture off, and they crisscrossed, like they totally blocked that path. 5 trees. 2 of them were fairly large, the other ones were maybe that big around. And that's it. I said this couldn't have been a coincidence. There wasn't a storm. I said, to heck with this. I just leave it alone. So I moved my picnic table down on my property, down over the hill in the weeds. And I actually got a video I found today from, I think, 2013. And you can see my little beer garden down in there. It was 2016, I think. I'm not sure which. 2016. And my 2 sons were visiting. Imagine that. Yeah, that's the last time I think they once visited me. But here's that video. I'll let it play, but understand, my sons are adults. They're in their 20s, and one of them was in his 30s, early 30s. And we were cooking out, having some beers. Imagine that. Here's the video of that video. Woof woof. All right, so that's where I had my little beer garden, and Jen had a garden. We both planted flowers and things, and we both were trying to make it nice down in there, you know, because we had that in common. She liked to sit out and cook out, big time. Loved to sit out and cook and listen to music and talk and have a few beers. She was big into that too. She really liked that. But we just kept staying down there. And I can't say we had anything paranormal happen down there. Or did we? Because we would hear things in the woods right around us, sounding like somebody dropping a large rock, thud. You know, and there's no wind going on. It's not a tree branch breaking. It sounded like somebody taking a large rock and just dropping it. We used to hear that. just things like you got the feeling that you were being watched. And we just kind of weathered it and braved it. And then we both agreed this is too creepy in here. And the last thing we did there, we moved up, we cooked out right in front of the house, right in front of the front door. Because both of us had to admit it was just too creepy down in that little spot there. And that was the end of that. So we kept cooking out, but we kept it right in front of the place. What else happened in those woods? I've got to interject again. I remembered something. That's a picture of the place after we stopped going down there. You know, just kind of abandoned. But on 2 occasions, her and I both were sitting down there at night, quietly, and heard what sounded like a lot of horses running up to us, like a stampede of horses. It was really weird. Just the woods. A lot happened inside that place. Maybe I'll retell that again someday. I started working nights for a little while, and I didn't feel good about leaving Jen there alone because it was freaky there. It was starting to in 2018. It was our last year there. Things were starting to really escalate, and got the impression that they didn't like her. Something didn't like her, and I was right. She told me I got home one morning after working nights. And she wasn't there. She had gone to her mom's house the night before because she said something large was in front of her face, growling at her. Like really threatening, growling. And she said it didn't sound like a dog. It sounded like something really large, growling like a beast, or whatever. Menacing. And she said she didn't see it, but the presence was definitely in front of her, growling right in her face. And she said it backed her all the way out the front door and followed her, growling outside. She said it followed her right to her car, growling it right in her face. And I totally believe it because there's a lot of things going on at that point in time. Well, really, it picked up inside the trailer. And she saw things. She had some experiences that I didn't. She said she saw a tall, bald-headed man in the place. I didn't see that. She said he was naked. That's what she said. Well, he looked like he was naked. So she was outside, and she saw a tall, thin, bald-headed man who looked to be naked, possibly, walk through the living room, and she saw him quite clearly. What else happened in those woods? I will tell you what. I talked to my landlord, who was a man about my age now. He was in his early 60s. And a good guy, a common sense, kind of retired prison guard. Had a great sense of humor. A big guy, in shape, looked to be in shape. And I liked him. He was a friend. I considered him a friend. He's like an older brother to me. And I used to ask him the history of the land. He told me that there were 2 trailers there before on that property, and they both burned down. And that's all I know about it. And I couldn't find any record of that. But they both burned down. And he didn't want to talk about it. But before he bought the property, that's what had happened there at some point in time. I don't know when. I never could find anything. And I looked. But I used to ask him about, and he got the impression that I was kind of spooked. And he says to me, he says, "What is it, man?" He said, "It's just wild animals. That's all there is here." His son lived there. His son never had anything. He said his son never told him anything happened there. His son lived there before me. And then I moved in there. And, I don't know what it is. I attract it. I don't know if I attract this stuff, if I enable it, empower it. I don't know what it is. Honestly, I don't know what it is. But I came home one night. This is sad. And nobody was there. He was back in those woods working, putting in a septic tank. And I found him back there dead, yeah, of a heart attack at nighttime. Oh, that was pretty rough. Pretty rough for his family. And again, if anybody knows him that sees this, let me know. I apologize. I will take this down. I'm not mentioning anybody's names. That happened back in there. Hey, apparently he had a heart attack. I found him laying on the ground in the dark. What else happened in those woods? I think that's about it. I'm probably forgetting. I'm certain I'm forgetting things. I had a dream one night. Not a bad dream. I dreamt that I was in those woods, and God's angels, two of them, they met me. They were on horseback. It's just a dream. But I walked through those woods to that field that I like so much. I really love that field. And I'm standing in that field, and these men in armor with beards, look like Viking warriors or something, and they look tired, like they've been in battle. And they just slowly rode by me on horses. They look weary with their armor and their swords. And one of them rode up to me, a man with like a red beard, and he said, "Those back there," and he pointed to the woods. He said, "They won't bother you anymore." And then they kept riding off and just rode off, and I woke up and nothing happened after that. That was the end of it. So you better believe I did some praying for protection. But yeah, in my dream, it was surreal. It was nighttime, and I was in my trailer in the dream, and I went outside and I walked through those woods, and I'm standing out in that field that was right behind my house. And to walk through those woods to get to that field would take you 3 minutes walking. And in the dream, I'm standing in that field, and a slow procession, one line of men on horseback, men in armor. They look weary. They just slowly rode by me on horseback in their armor glistening. There was like moon and stars out. And then one came up to me while they kept moving, and he just looked down at me. He pointed back to those woods, and he said, "They won't bother you anymore." And that was it. That was it. But things inside the trailer still happened, but not in the woods. That was the end of the woods. Inside the trailer, no, I had issues there right up to the day we left. And when we left, they tore the place down. They tore it down because the land was sold after the landlord died. I lived there for a little while after that. They sold the land, and the person that bought the land tore the trailer down because you couldn't sell it. It was zoning laws, you couldn't sell it. You can't sell an old trailer like that. And it was really junk. Honestly, the trailer was junk, but it was home. I have a lot of memories there. And even though a lot of spooky things happened there, I had crosses everywhere. I did a lot of praying, and it really unnerved me. It did disrupt my life quite a bit there, the hauntings. Because the stuff I just told you about, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because things happened inside the trailer, and it didn't matter if you shut your doors or locked them, because I had seen spirits drop through the floor and vanish, and they could come through the walls. It didn't matter. I figured that out. They didn't lock doors, and all that didn't stop them. But God's protection was there. So when we moved, here's a picture of that place that tore down, being demolished. That's the end of that trailer. I spent 8 years of my life in there. And the stories I just told you of that place are just the tip of the iceberg of all the hauntings that I went through, and Jen went through them there too. And so did some others that were there. But for the most part, I lived there alone, except I was there with Jen for, we lived there, she lived there for 4 years, and then we moved to where I'm at right now. And she's in heaven now. So, all right, I don't know if I had a picture up or not. I don't know why those things happen to me. You know, I talked to somebody that lived on that road. I talked to a couple of people, and I asked one if they ever had anything happen there, and they didn't believe in ghosts. They just, maybe they did, I don't know. They just kind of gave me a funny look. You get that sometimes. I talked to somebody else that lived down the road a little ways, and they said, oh yeah, those woods are definitely weird. So, people live there now, family. I don't know if I want to go out. I don't think I want to talk to them. They don't need to know this stuff. I don't know them. You know, I may tell this stuff to strangers on YouTube, but it's not like I'm going to go back to where somebody's living there now with their family on that property, not in a trailer, and tell them this story. They may not want to hear it. You know what I mean? So no, I'm not going to touch that. I don't know what it is. If I go somewhere, if I move somewhere, I don't know what it is. If I enable it, attract it, I don't know what it is. I probably won't know in this lifetime here. I prayed to God. I believed in Jesus. Jen and I went to church, and we both put our faith and our protection in the Lord's hands, ultimately, at the end of the day. And you always wonder, live in a place that's haunted like that, why do you stay there? It's our home. We're not made out of money. You know, you just can't leave. It's a lot of work to move out of a place, you know, and it was our home. So that's it. Am I forgetting anything that happened there? Oh, there was a dog spirit that was, I've heard it inside the place, so did Jen. Number of occasions you could hear a dog, and my dog heard it. My dog would flip out, but you'd hear a dog walk up to you and like snuff, like it's sniffing. You could hear its footsteps, and I heard it just outside of my place in the yard. Like it sounded like a stricken animal yelping really loud, like a dog would sound if it just received a fatal blow. It was really tragic, and my dog was with me. And my dog looked up at me like, and I'm like, my dog's got the same expression on its face that I like, kind of like alarmed, but kind of felt sorry for it because it sounded like a dog that had just been mortally injured. And just, it sounded like it was right outside our door. And there was nothing there. Heard that a couple of times just outside. Anything else? I'm probably forgetting a lot of things. But yeah, those woods were pretty haunted. There's the other stories of the Indian woman. I call her an Indian woman. And the spirit hawk, that wasn't on my property, but that kind of happened in the same area. Just down the road a little ways. Walking distance. But that's that. All right, I just thought I wanted to recover that, and I post these pictures too that I dug up for it. Take care. God bless.